Welcome. This is the Kansas Balance of State Continuum of Care Membership and Funding 101 training, a recorded overview produced by the Kansas Statewide Homeless Coalition. Whether you're brand new to the world of continuums of care or you've heard the acronyms tossed around and never quite known what they meant, this presentation is for you. We will walk you through what the Kansas Balance of State COC is, how it works, and how you or your organization can be part of it. We'll keep it plain, we'll keep it practical, and we'll make sure you leave knowing how to get involved. Let's start at the beginning. Part 1 is all about building a shared understanding of what the continuum of care is and why it matters. We will look at why a coordinated response to homelessness is necessary, what the BoS CoC actually does in practice, and how it is structured. With that foundation in place, the membership and the funding sections will be much easier to follow. Imagine for a moment that every community responded to homelessness on its own. No shared data, no shared planning, no coordination. That's what used to happen. The result was predictable. Fragmented services, duplicated efforts, gaps in care. People experiencing homelessness fell through the cracks because no single system was tracking both who needed help and what help was available. Congress recognized this in 1987 and passed the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, the federal law that authorizes and funds the CoC program to this day. McKinney-Vento was built around 4 goals: build community-wide commitment to ending homelessness, quickly rehouse people while minimizing trauma, connect people to mainstream programs they're already eligible for, and optimize self-sufficiency. The Continuum of Care program is how the federal government funds that coordinated local response, and it's important to understand the CoC doesn't just fund services, it funds an entire system: planning, coordination, data, accountability. That's the whole point. So, what is the Kansas Balance of State CoC? At its simplest, it serves 101 counties across Kansas, helping communities prevent and end homelessness. But here's the key thing. Please write this down if you take nothing else away. The CoC is not a single agency. It is a membership-based body. Federal regulations spell out who belongs at the table. 24 CFR 578.5 requires representation from nonprofit homeless providers, victim service providers, faith-based organizations, governments, businesses, advocates, public housing agencies, school districts, mental health agencies, hospitals, universities, affordable housing developers, law enforcement, veterans organizations, and people with lived experience of homelessness. That's intentionally broad because ending homelessness requires all of those voices. Membership is open to everyone. The CoC meets monthly with published agendas and a public invitation for new members every month. You don't need anything to join, you just need to care about ending homelessness. Why is it called the balance of state? Here's the answer. HUD requires every community in the country to organize its response to homelessness into a continuum of care. In Kansas, the larger metro areas each have their own CoC. That leaves the remaining 101 counties, most of them rural or frontier, without a CoC of their own. Those counties are grouped together into one big CoC. That's what balance of state means, and this structure matters. Without a balance of state CoC, the smaller and rural communities would simply be left out of federal funding, coordinated planning, technical assistance, and resources to prevent and end homelessness. The balance of state CoC exists so that no Kansas community is left out. Here's what that 101 county geography looks like. The KSBOS CoC is organized into 9 regions. Each region has unique housing needs, provider capacity, and local challenges. The CoC's job is to make sure each region has a seat at the table in state and national homelessness planning and access to federal resources that flow through U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This is also why membership matters so much. Local voices from every region inform how the CoC coordinates across the whole geography. So what does the CoC actually do? The 24 CFR 578.7 spells out specific legal responsibilities, 8 of them. The CoC maintains a written governance charter and operates a steering committee. The body federal regulation calls the CoC board that includes at least one person with lived experience of homelessness. It operates, coordinated entry, a standardized intake and referral process so people get prioritized fairly across all communities. It develops and enforces written standards for housing assistance. It designates and oversees a single homeless management information system to track services and outcomes. It conducts the point-in-time count at least every other year. It does an annual gaps analysis comparing need to available resources. It monitors funded projects and acts on poor performance. And it manages the annual collaborative application to the Department of Housing and Urban Development on behalf of all member projects. That's a lot, but it's all in service of one thing, making sure communities have a coordinated, accountable system that actually moves people out of homelessness. Who does what inside the COC? First, the full COC membership consists of every participating organization and community member that wants to end homelessness. The full membership makes major policy decisions, approves the governance charter, and provides direction. We meet monthly on the first Wednesday of the month at 10 a.m. Second, the COC Steering Committee, which acts as the COC Board. The steering committee is the representative body elected per the governance charter, and it acts on behalf of the full COC between meetings. Third, and this is important, the collaborative applicant, that's the organization designated by the COC to apply for planning funds and compile the annual application to the Department of Housing and Urban Development for COC funding. This role is filled by the Kansas Statewide Homeless Coalition. To be clear, the Kansas Statewide Homeless Coalition is not the COC. It is a designated representative acting on the COC's behalf. Fourth, recipients, organizations that sign grant agreements directly with the Department of Housing and Urban Development and receive federal COC funds. And fifth, subrecipients, organizations that receive a subgrant from a recipient to carry out a specific project. One important note, for-profit entities cannot be recipients or subrecipients under any circumstances. All right, our foundation is set. Part 2 is where we talk about funding opportunities, what they support, who can apply for them, what the Department of Housing and Urban Development expects from funded organizations, and how the whole annual cycle works. Please keep in mind that this is an introduction, not an in-depth training. The Kansas Statewide Homeless Coalition provides dedicated, in-depth training for both potential new applicants and organizations interested in renewing their existing funding. That training matters because the process is not static. Every year, the process may be adjusted, federal priorities may shift, scoring criteria may change, and new requirements may be introduced. What was true last year may not be true this year. KSHC's training ensures that every applicant is working from the most current guidance available. With that in mind, let's begin. The COC program supports 6 different kinds of activities: permanent supportive housing, long-term housing with services for people with disabilities, prioritized for those experiencing chronic homelessness, rapid rehousing, short to medium-term rental assistance up to 24 months with case management, available to individuals and families regardless of disability status, and monthly case manager contact is required. Transitional housing, temporary housing with services designed to prepare people to move into permanent housing within 24 months. Supportive services only, services like street outreach and case management for organizations that don't also provide housing to those program participants. Coordinated entry system, the fair and prioritized access process referenced earlier, this is required. And the Homeless Management Information System, which is the secure shared database that tracks services and outcomes across the whole COC. 2 important reminders: anyone committed to ending homelessness can join the COC. COC funding is not required for membership, but being a member is what connects an organization to these funding opportunities. Lastly, the Department of Housing and Urban Development decides every year which of these program types they will fund in that given year. You must refer to the Notice of Funding Opportunity for eligible program types as it may change. Who's eligible to apply for COC funding? The list is in 24 CFR 578.15, nonprofit organizations, states and local governments, other instrumentalities of state or local government, Public housing agencies, Indian tribes, and tribally designated housing entities, for-profit entities are not eligible, they cannot apply, and they cannot serve as subrecipients under any circumstances. There's one more requirement that catches people off guard. Organizations must be designated by the COC to apply. You cannot submit an application directly to Department of Housing and Urban Development without going through the local competition process. Beyond eligibility, real capacity needs to be in place before applying. A functioning accounting system in line with generally accepted accounting principles, or a designated fiscal agent. Ability to participate in the Homeless Management Information System and coordinated entry, written policies for eligibility, documentation of homeless status, and client privacy. Ability to submit and manage applications in the eSNAP system. The organization can't have any debarments or suspensions from receiving federal funds. Financial management practices meeting the federal uniform administrative requirements in 2 CFR Part 200. And the ability to provide a 25% match. What's required of organizations that receive COC funding? There's a 25% match requirement on the total project budget. That match can be cash, in-kind services such as staff time, or other allowable non-federal contributions. It has to be documented. Funded organizations are subject to federal compliance and reporting requirements under 2 CFR Part 200. All program expenditures must be tracked, and annual performance reports, APRs, are submitted for every grant year. Funded organizations are expected to be active COC members, attending meetings, serving on committees, participating in planning. They contribute data to the Homeless Management Information System, unless they're a victim service provider, in which case they use a comparable confidential database to protect client safety. And if a project includes rental assistance or leasing, it must use the COC's coordinated entry system so access stays equitable across all communities. These are real responsibilities, but applicants get support, training, and guidance every step of the way. Let's clear up some jargon. NOFO stands for Notice of Funding Opportunity. It's the official annual announcement that COC program grant funds are available. The authority is in 24 CFR 578.19. Every year, the Notice of Funding Opportunity sets the table for that competition year. It establishes the total amount of COC funding available nationally. It sets the deadline for submitting the consolidated application. It announces the scoring criteria they will use. It identifies policy priorities for that year, things like a focus on chronic homelessness, youth, or project types. It identifies any bonus funds set aside for specific populations or activities, and it spells out any specific requirements that apply to that competition year. The Notice of Funding Opportunity is released after Congress passes the annual appropriations bill. Visit kshomeless.com for the current status. One important distinction: the Notice of Funding Opportunity is a national announcement from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The local competition within the BoS CoC is a separate process, but it feeds directly into the national competition. The Department of Housing and Urban Development scores all applications nationally, awards funds, and executes grant agreements with recipients directly. Here's how the annual cycle actually works start to finish. Step 1. The Department of Housing and Urban Development releases the Notice of Funding Opportunity, announcing available funds and opening the application period. Step 2. KSHC holds a mandatory training for any agency wanting to renew an existing grant or apply for a new one. Step 3. Applicants complete a letter of intent to show their interest and allow KSHC to provide technical assistance to ensure eligibility and capability. After that, project applications can be submitted outlining program scope, population served, budget, and alignment with specific priorities and goals. Step 4, a non-biased ranking and review panel scores all applications using COC-approved criteria. Projects are placed based on their scoring to Tier 1, highest funding likelihood, or Tier 2, which will have to compete with other projects nationally. Step 5, KSHC compiles all eligible applications into the COC collaborative application and submits it to the Department of Housing and Urban Development through the eSNAP system. This application also includes system performance data, regional coordination strategies, housing inventory, gaps in services, and alignment with federal goals. Step 6, the Department of Housing and Urban Development reviews the full package in the national competition. Step 7, they announce awards and executes grant agreements directly with recipients. Step 8, recipients operate projects, serve participants, contribute to homeless management information system, and submit annual performance reports. Then the cycle begins again. One thing to underline, even if an organization doesn't apply for a grant, active COC membership strengthens the collaborative application and directly increases the funding available for Kansas communities. Look at these numbers. In fiscal year 2019, the KSBOS COC competed for and received about $2.65 million from the Department of Housing and Urban Development from the COC funding. By fiscal year 2024, that number had grown to over $4 million. That's a 53% increase in 5 years. And in 2022, the COC received an additional $2.6 million in special rural funds, money targeted specifically at rural communities, which is most of the KSBOS COC geography. Every year, more communities across rural Kansas are gaining access to COC funding. And that growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens because the COC has engaged members, well-performing projects, stronger system performance data, and a collaborative application that tells the story of Kansas honestly and well. A stronger COC means more funding for the communities it serves. Part 3, how to get involved. Membership is free, it's open, and COC funding is not required to be a member. The next few slides walk through what membership means, who can join, and how to get started. The KSBOS COC is made up of individuals and organizations who share a commitment to ending homelessness. Membership is free and open to anyone. Our sign-up is available on our website at kshomeless.com. Here's who typically joins: housing and homeless service providers, nonprofits and faith-based organizations, behavioral health and healthcare agencies, local and tribal governments, school districts, and youth liaisons, individuals with lived experience of homelessness, advocates, community leaders, and concerned citizens. COC funding is not required to be a member. Membership and applying for grants are completely separate processes. COC membership is how local solutions get built with statewide impact, and your voice matters in that work. There are 3 membership categories. The first is organizational representative, which is for staff or board members officially representing a COC member organization. Organizational reps are voting members, but only 1 vote per organization is allowed. Each organization can assign 1 primary and 1 alternate voter. The second category is individual members, which is for individuals that are not affiliated with an organization. Individual members have full voting rights and can fully participate in COC planning and decision-making. The third category is general members. This is open to any individual who wants to be part of the COC. This includes additional staff from member organizations or general community members. General members participate in meetings and work groups, but they don't vote. The point is, every member strengthens the COC. Whether voting or non-voting, participation supports collaboration, advocacy, and impact across Kansas. So, what do members actually do? Members participate in COC membership meetings held monthly. They help set local priorities and have a voice in how COC funds are allocated across Kansas communities. They contribute to the annual point-in-time count of sheltered and unsheltered people experiencing homelessness. They participate in planning work groups and committees focused on specific topics and populations. They contribute to or use the Homeless Management Information System, which tracks outcomes and client participation. They stay informed on funding opportunities, policy updates, training events, and importantly, they strengthen the collaborative applications submitted to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Active membership directly impacts how much funding Kansas receives. COC membership does not automatically qualify an organization to apply for COC program grants. Applying for funding is a separate process with its own eligibility and capacity requirements. However, membership is a prerequisite to that process, and it is where every funded organization starts. More importantly, membership is how you begin contributing to the work of preventing and ending homelessness in Kansas. Joining is easy, it's free, and it's open. You don't need to be a housing expert, you just need to care. Step 1, go to kshomeless.com/about-ksboscoc/membership. Step 2, click Join Today. Step 3, decide on a membership type, organizational representative, individual member, or general member. Step 4, complete the online membership and conflict of interest form. Step 5, start participating in meetings, committees, work groups, and trainings. After joining, members get regular updates on funding opportunities, policy updates, training invites, and ways to connect with other housing champions across the state. One form, no cost, big impact. A quick reference for the alphabet soup of acronyms covered in this presentation. Please feel free to pause this video or screenshot it for future reference if needed. Thank you for watching. Whether you're ready to join, considering applying for a grant, or just want to understand how this all works, the Kansas Statewide Homeless Coalition is here for you. Please feel free to reach out anytime.